always hated these things. The first time I said it, it sounded a little like this. I promise you, I'm going to be a fantastic father. And it was sort of like that Meat Loaf song where swear by the dashboard light. So I married her, and years later I said, I promise I'm ready. I promise you I'm going to be a good father. And so we tried, which was the fun part, and it just didn't happen. So I learned about basal temperature and all sorts of other things that I didn't want to learn about. And then I learned about specialty doctors, also things I didn't want to learn about. But I said, I promise, I'm going to be a really great father. I can figure this out. Then I realized that there were real complicated things to figure out. One of them is determining whether it was a problem with my wife or a problem with me. Turns out there was no problem with my wife, despite all the radioactive fluids they injected into her and the really fantastic scans I get to see of her uterus. You don't ever want to do that as a man. You don't want to do it as a woman either, but you really don't want to do that as a man because it was more fun when it was birds and the bees and you didn't know so much. But then they say, all right, well, now we have to test you. And they send you into a room that has a very strange looking blue leather chair. And they hand you a cup. And then you realize that physics is hard. No pun intended. Because the cup has an opening here, and your anatomy is aimed differently. And so you put your foot up on a countertop, or you're like you're like, why is there a couch there? It doesn't even make sense, right? And so I promise I'm going to be a good father as soon as I figure out this physics, right? Because you have to get the sample into the cup to test it. There's no problem with me. So now we have the problem of trying to go through what's called intrauterine insemination, IUI. It's not quite IVF, but it's pretty bad. So then you say, I promise I won't hurt you when I inject you with drugs, but I also promise that I'm going to be a really great father. And so you start giving a shot to your spouse every day for a week and going in every other day for an ultrasound, and you learn about follicle sizes. I didn't even know you had follicles down there. You have follicles up here, follicles here. And you say, I promise I'll be a really great father. But then you get a rejection, meaning it didn't work. And so you smash your plates on the ground. And you say, I promise I will never be this violent again, but I promise you I will be a good father. And then you go out and buy all new plates. And the next month you kick your chairs and buy brand new furniture for your living room because you're so sad and depressed. We say, I promise you, this is going to work out someday. I promise you, I will be a good father. And so you keep on keeping on. We had promised we were only going to try 3 times because we were young and we were poor, and it is really expensive to try to have children. And it is embarrassing, and it is difficult, and you don't have anybody to talk to. And everybody who looks at you says, oh, guys, just try to relax. Because the problem was we were just too stressed. Or it'll happen eventually, it's God's will. You say, no, we're just going to keep going. We're going to try 3 times, and then we'll find another way. Our 3rd time happened to be what was called an ectopic pregnancy. The beta values went up and up and up, and then they stopped, and then they said, you're pregnant, but you're not. And so you say, I promise, honey, we'll get through this. We'll make it. I will be a really great father. So we tried a 4th time because we got something right, and it failed. And then we tried a 5th time, and the beta values went up, and the beta values went up again. And they doubled, and they doubled, and they doubled, and they told us, you might have twins. And I said, I promise you, honey, I will be a great father to 2 children. Thankfully, it was 1. In 2010, in November, about 26 days from now, I will celebrate the 11th birthday of my daughter, Michaela. And I remember that the nurse was this brutish woman who wore way too much eye makeup, and it looked like a Halloween horror story a month too late when she was delivering my first daughter. And I remember she asked if I wanted to cut the cord, and I was like, I promise you I will pass out. But I immediately got the chance to hold my daughter, and I got to carry her over after the incubation, to carry her over to my wife. And I remember looking at her, and I said, I promise you, I'm going to be a really, really great father. And I knew then that I would be, because it wasn't a promise I had to make to myself anymore. It was a promise I had to make to the greatest thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life. The thing that I worked for so desperately to have. The thing that makes me laugh when I'm upset. The thing that makes me cry when I'm frustrated at my end of my limbs and she's decided that she's almost 11 going on 40. But I know the way she looks at me and smiles, the way she laughs at my stupid jokes, that I really am a great father and that I really have kept my promise. And that is the greatest gift I can give to myself. Being honest with myself, being truthful to my promise. And yeah, thanks. Thanks. Well,